Welcome back. 17 new Omaha police officers are hitting the streets to train with veteran members of the department.
Those new officers graduated from the academy today, and as John Chapman reports, Omaha is doing all it can to attract more officers to the department.
After 23 weeks of intense training, 17 Omaha police recruits graduate from the Police Training Academy.
Mitchell Indenbosch.
Mitchell Indenbosch is one of the 17 to get his police badge pinned on in the ceremony. Mitchell follows his dad, Omaha Deputy City Attorney Bernard Indenbosch, into service for the city.
It means a lot, especially knowing how much work my dad's put in for the city with the police department. It means a lot just to follow and help people in the same way he has.
Tremendously proud. I know he'll do a fantastic job. He's we need police officers who can do the job well, and I have a lot of confidence that he'll set an example for others in the future.
Since 2020, public service professions have suffered from poor staffing and damaged morale. Police departments, our military, nursing, and other critically needed professions now battle to fill their ranks and maintain quality service to our citizens.
Executive Deputy Chief Scott Gray says the defund the police movement hurt many departments across the country, but he says here in Omaha, city leadership chose to move the other way.
And I knew that we had to ignore that movement of defunding and disassembling police that was moving all across the country and concentrate on keeping Omaha safe. And that's what we did. When everybody was talking about defunding the police, I actually raised the police budget that year.
Not only did Omaha Mayor Jean Stothert increase the police budget, she also increased police pay. Police Command believe that should help attract applicants in the future.
I think we'll be able to market it even more going forward in the future. Just really what the city has to offer, not only in terms of pay, but just benefits and opportunities as well. 17
new police officers walk across the stage in this ceremony. Officials hope many more will earn their badges in the next class. On your side in Omaha, I'm John Chapman, 6 News.
Police officials tell us right now Omaha is about 100 officers short of the 906 officers that it can have. Police Command say they hope the next class will bring in between 50 and 60 new recruits.